Namaskar everyone. As spiritual sadhakas, very often we can get really overwhelmed. Sometimes it may be due to the external situations which, on our path we may choose very different external situations than we are used to. Or we may go into an organization and the external situation is very different. And of course, we are having some inner experiences which can also get very overwhelming because all of a sudden your sense of self, your very basic identities, what we thought of as right and wrong is all getting questioned. We are wondering about very fundamental aspects, and sometimes both of this happens. In fact, very often both these changes happen, the external changes, internal changes, and I think it can get very overwhelming at times, and today's video I want to just look into that a bit. So in my previous video, I explained a little bit about some of the major transitions that had happened in my life in the latter half of 2023. One was I was always this urban character, born and brought up in Mumbai, though I stayed in Pune for some time, but I think I was very used to the Mumbai environment, so hardcore urban. Then I went to Coimbatore, which was already a big shift for me because from a metro urban place, I was in a much smaller town, even though Coimbatore is actually not that small because it's the second biggest city of Tamil Nadu. But that itself was a big shift for me. So the shift from Coimbatore to Chikkabalapur, which is like a village, was pretty huge. At the same time, I was doing like daily volunteering in the new upcoming Adiyogi Isha Center. That was also really big because of so many factors which I'm not getting into currently. And the third part was that I quit my job and I was hopefully, just winding up that part of life and getting into this, setting up few different things and looking at life and my life activities differently, and that was also a whole big piece. And as I mentioned that I was doing Kalari Payata, which was really helping me remain grounded because it brought this physical dynamicity and mobility, which helped with mental mobility and dynamicity as well. So that was really helping me remain grounded. When I made this move, I was not really looking at it as a very long term. I was thinking of doing it for a few months and taking a break because currently I am in a phase of life where I don't want to simply get overwhelmed and be able to make the best of it. I want to be in a position where I'm really making the best of it because I don't know how much time this will last. We don't know how the situations change in life, but then something else changed. As I mentioned in the end of that video, I found out that somebody that I felt was really close to me has gone through a very much larger transition in their life. So I'm massively overwhelmed right now. I'm hoping the person is watching this because I'm not in touch with them and I am really looking forward to catching up with them whenever. So when I found myself all overwhelmed, I did the next best thing that I could think of because you see, now I have a car, and if you know my history, I have this prolific traveler. I've traveled like a lot. So I got into my car and I went off on a road trip. I literally had planned a day's stay. I had like 2 or 3 pairs of clothes, nothing more. Some basic stuff I packed off in my bag and I went off. Some things like my tripod and all I didn't even have because I had no major plans of shooting stuff. But anyway, that became like some 10-day trip. Like I went to Tiruvannamalai, I went to Auroville, I went to Chennai. And I really enjoyed myself also, apart from the fact that I was also... those 10 days I decided to go on a longer road trip, but I would go back to Chikkabalapur, pack my stuff, inform everyone and then leave. And that's what I did. And that is why you see that whole road trip that happened. I took I drove from Chikkabalapur to Ahmedabad. I stopped at Badami, Pandharpur, Tuljapur, Shirdi and then Adalaj, and all of these spaces are such powerful places. It was very fascinating. I also realized that this YouTube channel itself has gathered some momentum and energy because of which I'm having different conversations, I'm visiting different places, I'm having different experiences, asking different questions, keeping this YouTube channel in mind, and that is leading to different experiences and different informations, and many things are happening. And that was a really interesting learning for me, how this channel also gathers momentum. It happens, especially, talking, creating content about spiritually powerful places is something that very often gathers its own energy, and maybe that will happen for this channel. I think it's beginning to happen. Let us see how it goes. So I just wanted to add, there is an email list that you could join. I am sharing the link in the description of this video. Sending one email a month for now. So it will be a great place for you to subscribe to, and I'll be sharing a lot of resources over there. For example, I stay in a lot of homestays and all during my travel, which are very suitable for sadhakas, ashrams also, some ashrams I stay in. So I will share all of this information through that email list. I want to make this video and discuss this whole overwhelmed bit, because it does happen to a lot of sadhakas. I know for a fact, I have such conversations. Especially when you are in an organization and you start getting overwhelmed, there is usually a lot of people who are asking you to stick in. Probably when you are having a spiritual breakthrough of a kind, or even your initial awakenings and stuff, it can get really overwhelming. And if you just run away at that point, then that kind of breaks the journey. So I think in certain recommendations are to not simply leave, like you want to stick in and allow that process to take place. And it's not like I am disagreeing with it, because definitely there are times when you should stick in, and especially when you're in your initial stage as a newbie, when the initial awakenings, initial breakthroughs, initial feelings of overwhelm is happening, maybe it is fine to stick in, because it will be overwhelming obviously, because you are going on a certain path and all of a sudden if there's a shift in your perception, a lot of things can become overwhelming. All of a sudden you will question everything that you were planning for yourself, you felt was right in your life. All of a sudden everything is questioned. Having said that, I personally feel that there is a range. Like if this is your comfort zone, then you could stretch your comfort zone and you could move till here maybe, and within this zone you are growing. It's a growth because you're pushing outside your comfort zone, and you will get little overwhelmed because everything is new. You are doing something new internally, externally. But the thing is, after you move beyond this range, I feel it's very tricky to be in that zone outside your extreme, maybe your extreme comfort zone level, because if you're too far out of your comfort, you won't have the judgment. You won't know what to do in that situation, because it's too far out of everything you are used to internally and externally. And that can get quite problematic often, because even on the spiritual path, even if you're surrounded by sadhakas, it is very difficult to judge which of the sadhakas are genuine, who has their own mental drama going on. Very often they will give advice, and a lot of them have very strong opinions, and they will throw that opinion on you. You don't know what to do with it, whether you can judge whether what is right advice, what is wrong advice. Even for people who you consider senior, right, who could be monks or who could be anyone, teachers and all that stuff, it is not clear. They are not always correct. They are most likely not enlightened. Thus, they have their own mental dramas going on at times. They have their own way of looking at things, their own opinions. Moreover, because they are on the senior level, they maybe even feel an obligation that they are supposed to push the student on the path. So they are coming from that whole zone, and so they have their own thing going on. It may or may not be correct for you in your situation. And that is why I find that if you're too far out of your comfort zone, you basically have no control over making better decisions for your life. And I personally, at least at this stage of my life, I want to be in a situation where I am reasonably sure that I'm making better decisions in my life. And even if that just means that, okay, something amazing is happening in my life, but I'm getting too overwhelmed, I'm going out of my zone, that growth zone, I may take a step back, that's it. Being overwhelmed is not necessarily because of any bad experience. One can get massively overwhelmed through positive experiences. In fact, this thing of that major spiritual shift that happens, very often your core identities, your core plans, likes and dislikes are all getting questioned. They are attacked actually. Very often people feel this when they are in the presence of a deity or they are in the presence of strong energies. A lot of these things do get questioned a lot, and It is part of the spiritual process. So it's not a bad thing, it's actually a very good thing. But at the end of the day, you still, when you step back and step out of it and you are in that zone of being overwhelmed, your basics have shifted internally, which after that, which space you want to be in, which people you want yourself surrounded are all question marks. So my point is just to be very clear to say that even when I am overwhelmed and I went on the road trip, it was not clear whether it's a negative. It was not actually. It's just that it's a lot. It's a big change. That's all. And maybe because I've come so far in my spiritual journey, I don't judge things. I will never say this good or bad. We cannot say. In fact, now if somebody even in front of me, they will say, oh, this was not good. I'm like, why will you judge? Our intellect is so stupid. You should not allow it to interfere in your life judgments. Which situation comes in your life, you cannot say it's good or bad because you don't know how it will pan out. You do not know what the alternatives were. In your little brain, it may seem that, oh, that other alternative was so much better, but you don't know. So let's not judge at all. And I've recently been hearing, because I meet a lot of these people who've done the samyama for the first time. Samyama is the most advanced program in Isha Yoga. And a lot of them will say that you can never tell what will happen to the sadhaka after they do samyama, because so many of them have so many deep realizations. Some of them will go off on road trips and start traveling. Some of them may stop all their practices, not because it's negative, just because it's very overwhelming for them. So they want to take it slow. Some people obviously may have a much greater love and devotion for that whole path and for Isha, and they may want to go into full time. I'm sure that's happening to a lot of them. They may take a much deeper step into the organization and everything is fine. I think it's important for us to understand that each of our journeys will be extremely unique, because we are coming with so much of baggage and our own karmic threads which are there, our own karmic software which is there. It has to find its way. And so it is completely unique journey. Even if two people decide to become full-time volunteers, can we say the journey is the same? Not at all. It can meander whichever way. Some of them after 5 years will leave and go outside. Some of them may take brahmacharya and stay whole life. Maybe they'll get enlightened also. Who knows? I'm just saying. Or maybe that person who left will get enlightened. It's just we do not know. And I think it's extremely important to treat each of our spiritual journeys and journeys in life, which are not different. We have to treat it with some uniqueness and with some sacredness, because especially when we get some maturity in our spiritual sadhana and stuff, at least more and more conviction has happened within me that random things don't happen, because already if you're deeper in your spiritual sadhana, you have those positive forces, your guru, any deities, so many things get involved, and they are warding off a lot of things. They will bring so many things in your life. It is, I think, very natural for that little sacredness to develop, and once you deeply respect the uniqueness of your own journey, I think you will realize that when you get overwhelmed, there will not be one way to do. You don't need to step back or step ahead. You have to look at your own individual journey. And the understanding of what to do in that stage will come over time. Right now, when I am in this situation, I am reasonably clear what I needed to do. So I tried to push and go forward with whatever I was doing, but I realized that's not gonna work, so I stepped back, and that's all. It's working fine enough. So this judgment will develop over time. Maybe, as I had mentioned earlier, also the case for people who are very new in this journey is a little bit different. Maybe you just try to push forward, and if you are very clear that pushing forward isn't the way, then you push backwards or you push sideways. What else can you do? So that's all I want to say. I think in summary, I will just say that if you're very overwhelmed right now with the external, internal, whatever it may be, one thing is to treat gentleness towards yourself, some care towards yourself, from the best of your best bhav that you can generate, whatever it may be. From that bhav, if you can make a decision, I think that's a good one, whether it's to step back or to step forward. That specific decision, I think at the end of the day, is not the most important thing. The thing is, if you're able to come from the correct intention and correct bhav within yourself, I think that is extremely important. And I think it is also important to understand that some things take time. Even if it is just for you some clarity to happen in your life, some solutions to happen, some healings to happen, whatever it may be, I think it will take time. There is just no other way. You can rush certain things, you simply cannot rush other things.